story called Space Cowboy and the Journey to Planet Paradisia. This story was written last year. I wrote this for a vacation Bible school for my wife. She was doing a series on the Lord of Space and needed a children's story. This story is a 6-part story. I do claim copyright privileges on the story. If you would like an emailable copy, please email me and we'll discuss that as you email. But we're going to read the first chapter today. And again, Space Cowboy and the Journey to Planet Paradisia. This story is all about a little boy who gets trapped into a space rocket and he takes an unusual journey out into the outer space. He encounters various planets, he encounters various individuals that help him or try to hinder him along the way. And there's lessons in here for children of all ages. This first section is called The Journey to Paradisia Planet Begins. The first planet that the little boy named Christian visits is called Life Force, and it's there to teach hope. Hey Christian! I'm sorry. Hey Christian, it's time to wake up. We have a big day planned and you need to get out of bed. It seems so early in the morning as Dad called out to his son Christian, but if he wanted to go fishing, then he had to get out of bed. Christian was up late last night and just wanted to sleep in. He just laid there for a moment or two, and then he remembered the book he had been reading the night before. It was a book on space and space travel called The Space Cowboy. That caused this little 9-year-old boy to sneak under his blanket with a flashlight, and he read and read and read till about 3 o'clock in the morning. Christian loved to study space and planets and rocket ships more than anything. His dad earned an engineering degree from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and worked for NASA building space rockets for as long as he could remember. Maybe when he grew up and went to college, maybe, just maybe he could go on a real live space trip into outer space. Maybe he could be an astronaut and go where no man has ever gone before. Christian sat up from the bed, put one foot on the floor and then the other. He remembered the small rocket experiment his dad was working on out in the back workshop and decided to take a look at the progress. He quickly changed into blue jeans and a red pullover shirt and made his way to the backyard workshop. Dad named the experimental rocket the Eagle Transporter, and it was almost finished. Dad said that it would need to be tweaked a bit, and Christian wasn't sure what that meant, but it sounded pretty good to him. Christian slid open the workshop doors and peered into the early morning darkness to see his dad's rocket. Up above the ceiling was a large opening, and sometimes his dad would take him to the upper loft with a telescope to view the moon and the stars. The Eagle Transporter was silver in color, but had a cool-looking red stripe down the side of it. The space rocket was around 15 feet long, and his dad had built it with 4 long, thin fins to stabilize it during takeoff. Inside the ship was a capsule with 2 seats. Oh, I wonder what these seats are for, thought the little boy as he made his way up the stepladder to sit in the seat for a few minutes. In front of Christian were the electronics of the ship. There were levers to pull, green, red, and orange buttons to push. Here was something called the SAR, or Synthetic Aperture Radar, and then there were sensors and scanners and a real cool-looking double-handled lever called the SIS, or Satellite Interceptor System. And then all the screens with light meters for controlling the speed and direction of the ship and the amount of fuel it was using. Christian began to yawn, and his eyes began to roll as he stretched out to take a short nap. Unfortunately, he had pushed a few buttons and pulled a few levers before he fell asleep and did not know that the sequencer had been activated into a series of commands that would propel the rocket forward. Just as Christian fell asleep, he felt the rocket shake and could hear the sound of fire coming out of the engines. The rocket began to slowly move as he woke to the sound and smell of fuel burning. Christian knew that a great mistake had just happened and quickly tried to shut down the engines. Since this did not work, he swiftly snapped on the seatbelt and looking down saw a helmet which he quickly put over his head. In what seemed like a flash of lightning, the spaceship began jetting over the house and over many houses throughout the neighborhood. The Eagle transporter began to climb higher and higher, and soon Christian could look out over the distance and see the horizon of the earth. A moment later, he heard the sound of a radio receiver. "Christian, Christian, can you hear me?" said his dad with a very tense voice. "Are you there, Christian?" Christian reached down and picked up the radio receiver. Yeah, Dad, I'm okay. What happened?" "You pushed the wrong levers and pushed the wrong buttons, and the automatic rocket pilot system was turned on. The rocket is self-sustaining and self-regulating as I was building it for long journeys to distant planets. Please just don't panic." Christian was silent as he was not sure what was going to happen next. "So, Dad, what do I do?" "Well, son, you just have to sit tight and allow the rocket to follow the settings and you'll be back to Earth." "But Dad, where is it going to take me?" "Well, the automatic flight system is programmed to take you to the planets Life Force, Temptorite, Regredium, the Glacier Planet, Oceanarium, and finally you arrive at Paradisia, the most beautiful of all planets. Once you arrive in Paradisia, the Lord of Space will tell you what to do." Although filled with excitement, Christian knew he would be gone a long time and wondered what adventures lay ahead. The Eagle transporter continued to travel at great speeds and passed the moon, and then it passed Mars, and at this point Christian looked up with great fear. Ahead of him floated a great white cloud of enormous size. The white cloud was glimmering and shimmering with light, and cosmic ray lightning was blasting throughout the whole huge mist. He wondered why the white cloud would just be drifting along outer space when all of a sudden the low energy charged particle detector began to sound out a loud high-pitched noise. Beep, 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 beep. The spaceship flew nearer and nearer to the white cloud, and the Eagle began to shake and roll and become unstable. Something greatly wrong was happening to the spacecraft, he thought. Christian attempted to activate the catalytic decomposition engine to put the Eagle into reverse, but the particle gravity was too great and the cloud began to pull him closer and closer and closer. In what seemed like just a moment, the Eagle flew right through the white pulsating cloud, and then the shaking stopped. The rolling ceased and the Eagle stabilized. But something was wrong. Something did not appear the same. It seemed like all the star formations were different. Christian had just flown through a time warp zone. It was clear across into a different galaxy hundreds of light years away. Up ahead he saw a planet that looked very familiar, but it was not Earth. This was a planet he had read about in some of his space books. Up ahead was the planet Life Force. This was not the first planet that his dad said he must visit, this was the first planet that his dad said he must visit. Christian looked down at his command dashboard, and sure enough, the radar detection screen told him that in just a moment he would be landing on Life Force. Christian buckled his seatbelt and harness, he put the helmet back on his head, he was ready for his new adventure. The Eagle began to slow down, and the rocket directional thrusters turned the rocket upright as the Eagle began the slow descent back to Life Force, or down to Life Force. The landing was smooth but exciting, and in just a moment the thrusters turned off and there was an eerie silence everywhere. Low on food and water and low on electromagnetic rocket fuel, Christian climbed out of the Eagle and began to walk the surface of the planet. For a 9-year-old boy, it could not be more exciting than to hike on a distant planet. Christian walked down a hill covered with red grass and across streams of light purple water. There were bright and shining golden colored trees that seemed to glow even in the daylight. And the planet Life Force had 2 moons which shine beautifully above in the outer atmosphere. Christian decided to stay on this wonderful planet for several days, as the water was good to drink and the fruit trees were delicious to eat. At one point in his exploration, Christian was a bit curious about the golden trees with the golden leaves and decided to pick a few leaves to see if he could eat them. As he touched one of the leaves, he let out a cry of pain. "Ouch! Ouch!" These leaves were filled with electricity and burned his hand. Just maybe he could tap into the trees and charge the rocket engines on the Eagle. Maybe that is what life force is all about. Everywhere he looked, he saw food and water and energy for a spaceship. Christian decided after 4 days that he was ready to leave life force and travel to the next destination, Temptorite. He climbed back into the Eagle transporter, snapped on the safety harness and helmet, and after activating the automatic liftoff thrusters, the ship began to shake with much power, and soon it lifted off into outer space. The next planet would bring a new adventure for Christian, the Space Cowboy. So, thank you for joining us in this first episode of our 6-part story. Soon we'll have the next episode up, but thank you for joining us. If you enjoy this story, please share it with your friends. And if you like, again, if you want a copy of this for story for Vacation Bible School or Children's Church, don't hesitate to email me at moses43@juno.com. And remember, this is copyrighted material. I hold all reserved rights in my name for this material. Thank you for joining me. God bless.